So, newspapers are a great source of information, and you can often find a lot of information about your ancestors by searching old newspapers from the towns where they lived. However, if you have immigrant ancestors, especially if they came from a country where English was not the first language, their names are often going to be misspelled in newspaper articles in America. So, one of the techniques that I've used extensively is instead of searching for their names, I search for their street address. And this is because up until really the mid-20th century even, they frequently listed the street address of any person who was listed in a newspaper article. So it would have their name and then their address. And so by searching the address, you're probably going to get better results because the newspaper reporters know how to spell the streets in the town where they work. So, a good example of this, on my great-great-grandparents' side, they lived in a home at 3119 Union Avenue, and their names were always misspelled. In fact, you'll see evidence of that here. Their names were frequently misspelled in the newspaper, but their street address was almost always spelled correctly, as you would expect. Union is pretty easy to spell. And so, as I pull this up, I see 39 different matches. And if I click on this first one here, we're looking really for examples of their names being misspelled, where I would have missed this result without the address. And this was about Jacob Post, actually, their son-in-law, and he was injured in a train accident, lost his foot. And what this told me, though, was that he actually lived with them. He and his wife and his young children lived with him after they arrived from Holland in America. So another result I found that was interesting because I searched for the address. But really, we're looking for misspelling. So let's go to the next one here and see what it says. And sure enough, it says Jacob Kep. And it's supposed to be Jacob Cap, my great-great-grandfather, but they misspelled his name K-E-P instead of K-A-P. So I never would have found that result without searching for the address. And as I skip down here and pull up this next one, same situation. His name is spelled K-A-P-P-A, so I don't know how they got the extra P-A, but they spelled it wrong. I never would have known to search for that. But searching for the address, I found this very interesting story about one night a stray bullet came through the window in their home and gave us an idea about the area where they lived at the time and how safer it was or wasn't. So a lot of good examples here of finding information, searching for addresses. One other thing you can do is narrow your search. You can always filter in newspapers.com. It's really great for that, and you can filter down to a specific year or even month or day. I'm going to filter to 1940 because something very interesting comes out from searching for the addresses. I pulled this address up from this 1940 story. That's definitely their house, but it says there was a man who was arrested for running some gambling operations, and his name was Pete Williams. And I thought, well, that's weird because nobody ever lived in the family or in the home named Pete Williams. But there was Uncle Bert Cassius, who was a gambler. And I thought maybe this was an alias that he used. So I click on the next story as I dug into this. And sure enough, it says Pete Cassius, alias Pete Williams. So now we've got the last name. His last name was Cassius, so his first name here, Pete, looks like still an alias. And they spelled his last name wrong. So I never would have known, even searching for his last name, that this was him without the street address that I was searching for. Another interesting thing comes up. He went by the name of Bert, and if I go in and I add Bert to the criteria, then I get 4 matches. And if I come down to this one here in 1946, something very interesting pops up. We see here that Bert Cassius. So they actually put his real name in here, at least his Americanized name, but again, they spelled Cassius with a C, and they left the I out. So it's spelled Bert Cassius. And I never would have, again, searched for that, but I did search for the street address, so I found Uncle Bert with his real name, not his gambling alias, in a newspaper story. So a great technique here, searching for street addresses. You're going to find a lot more results for your ancestors that you would miss otherwise.